It's FF243 Digital Flats and Specs. Today we're going to be doing a ruffle dress, and it's a lot of ruffles. So you're going to learn how to draw correctly by looking at it correctly, and also all the measurements for the ruffles and everything that needs to be done for the ruffle dress. It's a one piece, so you're not going to have top and bottom. It's going to be one. So we're using the dress tech pack, and it's woven, so it's a woven dress tech pack. So as usual, we start off with the neck width. So get your plastic ruler. Again, go from the edge, inner edge, to the other side, inner edge, with your plastic ruler straight across the high point shoulder. Okay. This one is actually 9 1/4 inches. So the width across is 9 1/4 inches. Now we have to measure from the front neck drop. We're going to measure from the front neck edge all the way up to the top of the ruler, and that is 5 3/4 of an inch. That's a front neck drop. Now the back neck drop, pretty much with the ruler, it's just a little bit, maybe more. I would do 2 1/8. So the back neck drop is 2 1/8 of an inch. The bust, 1 inch below armhole. Okay, you're going to get your armhole, make sure you measure down 1 inch. Now you want to lay it as flat as possible here. Again, this is a princess seam, so it's a little bit coming out, but that's all right because they know what to do when it's a fitted princess seam. So you're going to measure straight across here. It's 16 inches, and you double it, 32, because it's a woven. So it's going to be 32 for the bust. You do need to have a high point waist measurement, but we have actually the waist here, so you're going to measure from the high point shoulder. Again, because it drops in the front a little bit at the waist, we have to put our plastic ruler here, straight across at the lowest point of the center front, bring it across, and now we're going to measure it out here. It's 15 3/4 of an inch. That's the position. This is the waist, high point shoulder position, okay, is 15 3/4 of an inch. Now we're going to do the waist measurement. And since we have a waist on this one, we're going to measure right across the waist from the side seam, straight across, because we're not going to put the dip in when we're measuring it, because it's a style line. To the edge is 13 1/2, double it, so that's 27 inches. Okay. But do note that this is curved down here. So when you're sketching, you have to do a curve here. This curve also is because of the bust. So this helps with the bust, because actually when you put the bust in, it's actually going to be on the waist. It pulls up like this, and it's actually waist like this. Okay? So you need that little dip here. You need that for woven shirts. Anything, especially if it's woven, you need a little bit of a dip in the front, and that's for the bust, so that when you do put it on, it actually comes up to the waist point. Now this one has a hip. It's underneath the ruffles. So how we're going to measure that is, again, we're going to come down here. On this one, we're going to go down 7 inches from the side seam. So you're going to put in 7 inches. So you're going to measure straight across from edge, make sure it's flat, to edge. This is 18 1/4, so this would be 36 1/2 inches that you're going to put for the low hip. If you don't put this measurement in, and because as you can tell underneath the ruffles, because the ruffles are on top of this, this is just an A-line shell. If you don't put a measurement there, they can make it too thin, and then you can't even fit it onto the body. So you have to put this measurement here. We're going to do the sweep. Now pull up the ruffle here, just so that you see the actual lining part of it. And again, you're just going to measure right along the edge of the sweep here. And we have 21 1/4, so that'd be 42 1/2 inches for the sweep. Now we're going to do the armhole curve. Add that to your tech pack. You're going to measure just right along the edge of the armhole. Okay, it's 8. You double it is 16. So that's 16 inches for the armhole. Now we're going to measure the across front and across back. So again, you have to come down here 5 inches from the high point shoulder, put a little pin here. Okay, so we're going to go straight across from pin to pin to the edge of the armhole, which is 13 inches. Okay, now we have to do it to the back also. And you can tell that the pin actually is still coming through, so that's fine at 5 inches because it's high point shoulder down to 5 inches. So this one, the back actually is smaller than the front, and usually the back is bigger, but in this case, because it's sleeveless, it isn't. So here's the point. This is 12.5 inches. So when you do have a sleeveless garment, the back can be narrower than the front, because usually I'm always telling you the back has to be bigger than the front, but in a sleeveless garment situation, it doesn't have to be. The high point shoulder length front. And what we're going to do is measure from the very bottom of this ruffle straight up to the high point shoulder. Okay? And this is 36.25 inches. So put down 36.25 inches. All the measurements that we're going to do for this dress is going to be on your sketch page. So now we're done with the spec sheet, and now we're going to do the sketch page. Okay. The front ruffle, we're going to measure, I'm just going to measure the center front ruffle and see what that is. That's 3.25. I'm just going to check on the shoulder the seam if it's the same, and it is. So the first ruffle is put a arrow right here, put 3.25 inches. Okay. Now just straighten out the ruffle underneath it. Now you're going to measure the ruffle underneath it. You don't measure, even though the ruffle comes up here and everything, or inside, you're only measuring what you see. Okay, it's up to the pattern maker to do it correctly. So you're going to measure what you see from the bottom of that ruffle to the bottom of this ruffle. It is 2.75 inches. So it's smaller than this other one. So 2.75 inches. Put an arrow, 2.75 inches. Note that all of the ruffles have pearl marrow edge. So you have to put pearl marrow edge on every single ruffle. And because all the ruffles have pearl marrow edge, at the top of your sketch page, you can just put all ruffles pearl marrow. And you just indicate once. You don't have to measure any, you don't have to point to anything with an arrow. If you put it bold red lettering up there, they'll know that every single ruffle they have to touch has to have a pearl marrow edge. Okay? Now the other measurement that you have to do, because it is a princess seam, is you're going to have to give a measurement from at the armhole situation. Well, actually this one doesn't, the princess line doesn't go in the armhole, so you don't have to do that. So you only have to do the side seam over measurement for the princess line. So from the princess line over to the edge is 3 3/8 inches. So put a little arrow straight across and put 3 3/8 inches. And because they're following the line, the princess line of the form, and it just goes straight up, you don't have to do anything else. Just that measurement is fine. Okay? Now we're going to go down here to these ruffles. These should be all symmetrical. What you want to do is just when you do something like this, you want to just check and see. The first one is going to be a little bit wider. And because they also, when they're using this, okay. So the first ruffle is going to be just a little bit longer. It's going to be 3 3/8 inches. So put an arrow here and indicate 3 3/8 inches for the top ruffle. Then the rest of the ruffles are going to be 3 inches. So you can, if you want to, you can put an arrow right here and put 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, so that they know that all the ruffles are 3 inches from there on, and only the top ruffle is 3 3/8 inches. Okay. Now notice too when sketching this garment. See right here at the waist. See that there's no gathering in this ruffle, and same with every other ruffle going down here. So you have no gathering coming from here. All the gathering is coming up into here. Okay. Do not put any gathering going down from the waist down, because this is actually a circle ruffle that goes around. So you're going to indicate some little bit of ruffle type of thing right here. We'll go over that in class, how to do that. You do not put any gathering at the top of the ruffle, only at the bottom. Okay, that includes the top ruffle too. So all the ruffles are a circular ruffle. Okay, and you have to be careful that you do it that way. That way the pattern maker knows how to make the pattern. Okay, because the pattern, if you make it with gathering, they're going to make a straight ruffle going across. If you make it like this, where only it's slash and spread, they know that the ruffle is like in a circular motion. And also this gives it the fluidity that it has in the dress, because this is a chiffon georgette type of fabric, and if you did it straight across, it wouldn't have that same look. It would look very bulky. So you want to make sure that you sketch it in the right way so they make the pattern in the right way. You're actually telling them by your sketching what type of pattern to make. So be very careful with your sketching. This has a drop shoulder. If you notice at the top, you have that drop shoulder. So put a 1/2 inch drop shoulder right there. So even though you're not seeing it under the ruffle, it does have that 1/2 inch drop shoulder because of the bust. So you have to indicate there's a 1/2 inch drop shoulder underneath there. Now we'll go to the back. Let's just do the ruffles at the top. Just make sure that they are the same. They are the same as the front, so you don't have to indicate anything there because the ruffles will be the same going around for both the front and the back. Okay, you do have to make sure that this is an invisible zipper. So you're going to have to do an arrow, put invisible zipper, and you want to do the length of the invisible zipper. Okay, so you have to come down here to where the zipper ends, which is way down here, and measure all the way up to the edge of the zipper, which is 20 1/4 inches. Okay, you need minimum 20-inch zipper for anything that is fitted like this, because you have to be able to get into it, and so it has to go down past your low hip. So you have to always have a very long zipper when it comes to something that's very form-fitting to be able to get it on. Note that you have a center back seam and it goes all the way down in the ruffles. See, the ruffle is actually gathered in, into the seam here. So make sure you put a seam here, because you don't just stop the seam where the zipper is, because you have to have a seam going all the way down, otherwise you can't put the zipper in. The back also has a princess seam, so this one actually goes in the armhole, so we're going to have to give 2 measurements in the back. So at the bottom here, from the princess line over to the side seam is 3 inches. Put an arrow, 3 inches. Now you're going to do a curved arrow for the princess line there. You're going to go from the top of the princess line around the curve is 4 1/2 inches. Okay, so 4 1/2 inches around the curve of the armhole. This dress has a lining. Okay, so another thing you want to put, where you put all Ruffles Pro Marrow at the top, you want to put in fully lined dress, so that they know they have to line the dress from top to bottom. Here, you want to indicate, it's very important, where you want the lining to stop, okay? Because the lining cannot go all the way down to the edge, because it's going to show. It's going to peek out underneath it. So you need to indicate where the lining stops. So underneath here at the bottom of the dress, you're going to indicate lining stops, and then we'll measure it 1 3/4 inch from edge. So lining is 1 3/4 inch shorter than body. Okay, because if it's as long as the body, then when you put it on, it has a chance of showing. So you always make sure the lining is smaller than the actual outside body length. There is a hook and eye at the very top, so you're going to have to indicate a hook and eye, point to it, even though you don't see it. You don't have to show it because it's not supposed to be shown. Just point to it and say hook and eye at the top. That's it for this dress. So the main thing is that I'm going to want you to do is make sure that when you're sketching the dress, that you have the dip in the front, you have the princess lines, that it shows that this top ruffle is wider, a little bit wider than the bottom ruffles, same here, just a little bit, and that everything else is evenly sketched out because they're even. Again, you're going to do the gathering slash and spread going up, not going down. Any questions? Let me know. Thanks.